basically they're like, we shouldn't be stopping. We should just be going straight to Free Cloud. And then they talk a little bit about the sector that they're going to be stopping in. So the planet Vashti is in the Kiris sector, and there's basically this warlord named Candor who's got an old Romulan warbird. Like, think the original series Romulan warbird. Can I just tell you?
Right, yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the original series. When I saw that...
What? You?
Oh my god.
I loved it.
Holy shit. That bird of prey. Oh.
I know. It's a shame that they
it was
sliced
so
it
pretty.
up. I know. I wish to do that.
Neil, are you going to need a cigarette now?
I might. That's one of my favorite all-time Trek episodes is Balance of Terror.
Oh, it's a great episode.
And seeing this warbird, obviously a little bit later than we're talking about right now, but seeing this warbird, or this bird of prey, sorry, it was a moment for me.
Oh, me too, Neil. Me too.
Oh.
I was having a moment. I was like, oh my god, it's from the original series. I got very excited.
And it looked so good. It looked so
great.
good.
It looked great. And I have to say, I get why, the firefight, they're fighting their way out. But when they sliced that arm, that wing off, it hurt. I was like, oh, did you have to? Like, did you just target their engines or something? Like, but yeah, it was a cool looking warbird. So this guy Candor, he's in his Romulan warbird. He's kind of doing whatever he wants and being a criminal, basically. They talk a little bit here about the Fenris Rangers. So we know that from, if you've done any kind of research for this show, even on the surface, the Fenris Rangers, 7 of 9 is part of that group. And they're basically like this group that kind of runs around, and they help the Romulans get set up on this planet. They help them build their defense system. But basically, there's too much criminal activity happening that they can't really keep up with it all. It does make sense why Seven shows up at the end of this episode. If she's part of this group, and there's this firefight going on out over Vashti, you could understand why she would show up kind of to save the day at the end here. They talk a little bit about this Romulan rebirth movement, which seems to be sort of like this idea that I think when we see the planet later on, when Picard goes back like the second time, we see like that sign up in the cafe that says Romulans only. So we sort of starting to see like almost the xenophobic and this almost like a superior race idea of like we're not going to serve other races here. We're only going to serve Romulans.
Right. And you have like a segregation thing.
Yes. And you have to imagine that's almost a natural thing to develop after you've lost your home world. And you feel completely let down by the people that said they were going to help you. And now you're stuck on this planet, and this is supposed to be like, your savior or your saving grace, but it's not good. Like, people are living in poverty. People are struggling, and it's not great. You can understand why people are angry. And they're starting to feel like we're only going to be with Romulans. We're going to keep out, anybody from Earth or any other races. You can't come in here.
And there's no correlations to our modern society at all.
No, not what? So out there. So out there.
How dare you have us watch this unrealistic show?
I know. Where do they get these crazy ideas from? Who knows? That's another podcast. We could talk about refugees and feeling disenfranchised. That's a whole nother podcast. We try to keep it light here.
No politics.
I know, we keep it light here on the Picard cast. We don't talk about.
You can't separate politics from Star Trek.
I know, believe me.
What?
For people who, I know, right? What? Star Trek's political? What? for people who say, I don't understand why Star Trek has to be political now, my thing is like, now?
Well,
Have you ever
Do you
watched...
understand why it was then? Maybe maybe it's just right now they don't like it. But then it was fine.
It's always been political. It's always been political. Yeah. It's always been a social commentary. Like, if you ever watched one unit of Star Trek, you would know that the entire thing has been political. It's been a social commentary from day one.
Yeah, I mean, it's following Gene Roddenberry's vision of what he thinks the future should be, which necessarily makes him have to take political stances.
Exactly.
It's just how it works.
Yeah, it's true. No, listen, we get it. There's always politics in Star Trek, but we try not to bring the real world politics into this part of it. Believe me, I know it's hard. Excuse me. So, Picard talks a little bit about these warrior Romulan nuns, and Dr. Girardi's like, tell me more, I have to know more about this. And he says that they're basically like the best fighters he's ever met, and that they are assassins that choose you. They will bind their sword to your cause if you meet the certain criteria, and apparently they are feared by the Tal Shiar, which says a lot about this group, because the Tal Shiar is not usually afraid of anybody.
When Agnes is like, kind of thing, like I was too. I was like, yes, how do I join? This is great. Yeah. So I think, Rebecca, sometime you and I need to like dress up as them.
Romulan warrior nuns? I've been waiting for you to ask
Yes.
me.
We don't have time for C2E2. I don't have time to make 2 costumes before then.
We will plan it, though.
But New York Comic Con
will be Romulan warrior nuns. And Neil, you can be the guy who hangs out with us. You can't be a nun, but you can hang out.
I'll be a nun. I don't care.
I've got a long black wig if you want to be Elnor. I mean, come on.
So, Picard won't tell Agnes Girardi what the criteria is for them joining you. He kind of holds out on that one. He does talk a little bit about they follow the way of absolute candor. He goes into what that means, that there's basically no filter to their emotions, which I thought was kind of interesting. They talk about being completely opposite from the Vulcans. Like, they've thrown off all filters, and they basically will just completely just tell you how they're feeling about anything, and they're brutally honest. I mean, we see that even in this episode. Like, later on, when Picard comes back, the Mother Superior is like, you're old. You've gotten old, Admiral Picard. like the polite thing, what do we say in place? Oh, you look great. You look amazing. It's, you haven't aged today. When, in the reality, of course, is the complete opposite. So, yeah, they don't have any of those sort of false pretenses there.
Well, it's also completely opposite of what we've been led to believe about Romulans, period, is because of their intense need for secrecy. This is the exact opposite of that. It's
100%.
It's about being completely honest at all times.
Yeah, 100%. So,
why the super secret Romulans would hate them.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. They're the exact opposite of what the Tal Shiar is all about.
Antithesis.
But they're such badasses that you can't attack them.
Right, because they'll just slice your head off, as we have seen in this episode.
Yeah, we're like, whoop, when that happened. It's like guttural sounds, because you do not expect that to happen on Star Trek.
Very surprising. Basically, Rafi's trying to be understanding. She says to him, you've lost Daj. Now you're thinking about Elnor. And Picard's like, I may never come this way again. Like, I mean, he's being realistic. Like, when am I next going to be in space over here by this particular planet? Like, this is my chance to see Elnor. This is my chance to get them to help me. And she's like, we should stick to the plan, do one impossible thing at a time. And Picard's like, nope, we're stopping at this planet. And, you can see that she's frustrated, but then again, I mean, it's Picard. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah, she gets it, but she's angry.
Yes, absolutely. And Picard even says to her, like, I know you're anxious to get to Free Cloud. And she's like, anxious? Who said I'm anxious? Who's anxious to go to Free Cloud? Not me. You know, she's very, like, sort of, I don't know what you're talking about. So in the next scene, it's a quick scene back on the reclamation cube. Soji is playing with those triangular cards that Ramda had. And she's watching Ramda on this talk show, Romulan talk show, like a pre-recorded thing. And she's talking about Gamadan, which is the Day of Annihilation. And it involves the Seb Cheneb, which we know from the last episode was the Destroyer.
And I still think it's a hilarious word. Or 2 words. I don't know. It just sounds like gibberish. I know there's lots of different languages in this show, but that sounds the most gibberish of any of them to me. It's like someone slurring their words. They've had too much to drink.
Seb. Thank you.
They lost Seb Cheneb in a couple of weeks.
I'm going to start saying that, everyone. This is so good, Seb Cheneb.
Well, the other thing interesting about this scene is you can see on Soji's desk a picture of her and Daj. It's like really quick thing. It's just like the kind of picture you would have of like your family or your siblings. Interesting to me that Daj never mentioned her sister, but Soji has mentioned her several times, which is interesting. But we do see a little picture of her and Daj together. And Soji's definitely trying to figure Ramda out. Like, she's trying to understand why she's part of the Disordered and why she's so drawn to her. And we'll get to a scene a little bit later on about that, too. So now we're back over Vashti. They kind of go over, like, the protection on the planet. They have shields. They've got killer drones. If you don't have, like, authorization to come through the shield, when it opens, they basically shoot to kill. And then it, like, opens randomly, and then it opens for only a minute. So you have to, like, have your clearance, be ready to go, and, like, just shoot right into the planet. So it's pretty hard to hack. Almost impossible, really. And Picard's like, well, just tell him it's me. And obviously they'll just totally let me land. And they're like, yeah, no, they don't really care, it's you. And this to me is one of the really most interesting things about the show, is that Picard, almost every episode, has to be kind of humbled. Because he still thinks like he carries this kind of weight.
It's like so he might have softened to children in his old age, but he also got even more like, don't you know who I am?
Yes. He did. It's true.
Yes, he did.
He did. I mean, every episode almost, he has a moment like this where it's basically like, well, tell him it's me. And they're like, yeah, they know it's you, but they don't care it's you. And, so they're like, so how do we get in? And Captain Rios is like, well, you give him cash. I mean, that might work. And clearly that's what they do, because in the next scene, Picard beams down to the planet. So they must have gotten some cash from somewhere and offered somebody a bribe.
Well, so one thing I noticed is that, the Federation, you don't need currency at all.
Right.
But any of the associated races, you do.
Yes.
I mean, you look at DS9 with the Ferengi and Papa Cisco's restaurant, and they all require currency in order to get the services from them. Right.
Did you call him Papa Cisco?
I did. I can't remember his first name.
I love it. I was like, wait a minute. Did you just call him Papa?
General Cartwright. Is that better?
No, go with Papa Cisco. I just wasn't expecting it.
But yeah, because he runs a restaurant on Earth, and he must get some sort of reciprocation for making food.